5 stages, 1 silence, 1 question most people avoid. What appears when nothing is happening? From the child who turns emptiness into play, to the teen who experiences boredom as a cage, to the young adult who grinds through repetition, to the mature adult who finds rhythm in routine, to the elder who finally hears the music inside stillness. This is the journey of boredom across a lifetime. We treat boredom like a failure of stimulation, but boredom may be the doorway creativity has been waiting behind. Tonight we enter the silence between notes and ask what your life might compose if you stopped running from the rest. Watch the 5-year-old at her first piano lesson, tiny fingers dancing across ivory keys with reckless abandon. She pounds out chaotic melodies that follow no sheet music, no rules, no structure, just pure, unbridled sound. Her teacher winces, but the child grins with wild delight. Every note is an adventure, every chord progression a new world to explore. There is no boredom here, only the intoxicating discovery that her fingers can create magic from silence. The child doesn't know she's supposed to be bored during scales and arpeggios. She attacks each exercise like a treasure hunt, finding hidden melodies in the spaces between written notes. Boredom is a foreign concept when every sound is fresh, when the piano bench feels like a throne, and when making noise is the same as making meaning. Her symphony is chaos, beautiful, necessary chaos. Fast forward 10 years. The same girl sits in her high school orchestra, trapped in the second violin section, playing the same 4 measures over and over while the first violins carry the melody. The conductor's baton moves like a metronome marking time in a prison cell. Around her, classmates drag their bows across strings with the enthusiasm of pallbearers. This is musical purgatory. She stares at her sheet music, a repetitive accompaniment that disappears into the background while others shine in the spotlight. I would rather die of passion than of boredom, she thinks, though she doesn't yet know these words belong to someone else. The symphony has become a cage, each measure a bar that keeps her from the solo she knows she could play. Her rebellion comes in small acts, sliding into sharp notes the composer never wrote, adding vibrato where none belongs, turning harmony into discord. The teen realizes that most of life's orchestra sections are filled with musicians playing parts they never chose, following conductors they never auditioned for, in symphonies they never wanted to join. Boredom is no longer foreign. It's the drone of inevitability, the bass note that underlies everything. Now she's 25, sitting in a practice room at 3 in the morning, calluses bleeding onto her violin strings. The conservatory hallways echo with the ghosts of 1,000 abandoned dreams. She's learned that talent without strategy is just noise, that passion without discipline dies in empty concert halls. Her practice schedule has become a military campaign. Scales from 6 to 7, etudes from 7 to 9, concertos until her fingers cramp and her bow arm screams for mercy. This is the grinding middle movement of ambition, where boredom and determination dance together in an exhausting waltz. Every day she plays the same passages, chasing perfection through repetition, turning art into arithmetic. The sooner you learn it's on you to make life interesting, the better off you'll be, her mentor tells her after another failed audition. She's beginning to understand that the symphony doesn't care about her passion. It demands her precision. Boredom becomes fuel now, something to burn through sheer force of will. Each boring scale is a step toward the stage, each tedious exercise a brick in the foundation of mastery. At 38, she's achieved what the teenager dreamed of, first chair in a respected symphony. But success has its own soundtrack, and it's surprisingly quiet. The spotlight she once craved now feels like an interrogation lamp. Every note she plays carries the weight of mortgages and music lessons for her own children, of the orchestra depending on her leadership, of a reputation that can shatter with one missed entrance. The symphony has become her employer, her identity, her prison, and her purpose all at once. She teaches private lessons between rehearsals, watches young students with the same fire she once carried, knowing most will never make it to where she sits. The music hasn't changed, but her relationship with it has calcified into professional competence. Sometimes, in the middle of a beautiful passage, she catches herself thinking about grocery lists. Everyone is bored and devotes himself to cultivating habits, she realizes, watching her colleagues sleepwalk through another Beethoven symphony they've played 100 times. The boredom isn't the enemy anymore. It's the steady rhythm that keeps the orchestra together, the reliable bass line under life's improvisation. She's learned to conduct her boredom like a secondary instrument, using its predictability to create space for moments of genuine beauty. At 70, her fingers have lost their nimbleness, but her ears have gained something more valuable: the ability to hear silence. She sits in the same concert hall where she once performed, now listening from the audience as younger musicians take center stage. The symphony continues without her, as symphonies do, but she finally understands what Heidegger meant about boredom being a privileged mood. In the spaces between notes, in the conductor's pause before the final movement, in the held breath before applause, this is where wisdom lives. Boredom, she now sees, was never the absence of meaning but the presence of time itself, asking her to choose how to fill it. The young musician fights boredom like an enemy. The master recognizes it as the canvas on which all beauty is painted. Boredom is the root of all evil, the despairing refusal to be oneself, Kierkegaard whispered across centuries. But she's learned the deeper truth. Boredom is also the root of all creation, the fertile silence from which every symphony emerges. The Garden of Eden wasn't abandoned because it was perfect. It was abandoned because perfection, without the possibility of choice, is just another word for death. Tonight, as you sit by wisdom's fire, listen for the symphony in your own life's boredom. Hear the first movement of childhood's chaos, the discordant rebellion of adolescence, the grinding development of your middle years, the complex harmonies of responsibility, and finally, the peaceful coda of acceptance. Every great symphony includes passages that seem endless, measures that test the audience's patience, movements that exist only to make the beautiful moments possible. Your boredom is not a flaw in life's composition. It's the steady rhythm section that allows your solos to soar. Stop fighting the silence and start listening to what wants to emerge from it. The conductor's baton is raised. The orchestra of your life is waiting. And the next movement is yours to write. What symphony will you create from the silence?